Let's get ready to rumble!
The first fight was very close. Derek gave it away, in part because he sat on the ropes, and his road work probably wasn't where it needed to be. He'd probably admit that. Around that period, there was a few fights like that. Against Dillian, the first Dillian fight, he sat on the ropes, and if you notice, when David Haye was managing him in the second fight against Dillian, he worked relentlessly until Dillian tagged him. PULEV is 3 years older than Derek. At 41 years of age, Derek is 38. Had a decent win over Jerry Forrest in May, unanimously outpointing Forrest, and doing a better job, arguably, not arguably, but a better job than Michael Hunter, who arguably lost against Jerry Forrest, and a better job than Zhilei Zhang, who's in contention with an eliminator against Hrgovic. He's only lost twice in his career, PULEV, to unified heavyweight champions Vladimir Klitschko and Anthony Joshua. What I will say is both of them are very tough, very, very tough men. I will be very surprised if there's an early knockout in this one. It's a 12-rounder, O2 Arena. If there are any stoppages, I think there'll be late round stoppages. That's what I feel. PULEV won by a split decision in Germany last time out. Now Derek has home advantage. O2 Arena, South London. Now, the tactics, PULEV won't mind taking that little step back to keep distance, but he won't want to take more than that step back. Yeah, he wants to be in range. He wants to double up that jab, treble it up, and it's a good jab. Derek has to use his own jab. Do not neglect that. PULEV, I don't think the legs are there like that no more. So Derek has to use that jab. He has to get inside and outwork PULEV, obviously. That's what he has to do. That's how Derek fights, and that's Derek's game plan for most fights. Derek has a good overhand right, and he really wants to work on timing PULEV's jab, because sometimes he does leave the left hand a little low, come over the top, because Derek does have a good overhand right. Like PULEV has a good jab, Derek has a good overhand right. It's going to be a war. It's going to be a war, and it's going to come down to who wants it most. It's a crossroads fight. Both men are getting on now. Who wants it most? Who at this stage of their careers has the better punch resistance and engine? Now, Jerry Forrest isn't a big puncher, so he was never a threat to PULEV in terms of punch power. But we saw when Anthony Joshua made PULEV turn away when he landed in big combinations early, and then he finished him off with the Ernie Shavers right hand in the 9th round. AJ, despite what his naysayers is, I don't see why there'd be any doubt on his punching power. He has 22 knockouts in 24 fights. He's a huge puncher. Huge puncher. You can't really look at that and say, oh yeah, they've got no punch resistance. And Derek didn't look too clever against Joseph Parker last time out. It was up and down like a yo-yo. He lost the UD. That was late last year. Parker not a huge puncher. Is this an indication that Derek's punch resistance isn't where it should be? I don't know. I'm rooting for Derek. It's going to be a close, tough fight. It's hard to pick a winner. At this stage here, for me, it's hard to pick a winner. I don't remember the whole flow of the fight. I just remember bits and bobs. I watched a few highlights today. But a lot of people were saying it was a boring fight. I don't remember it being boring, but then again, what some people deem as boring, I don't deem as boring. I see it as more a chance to learn the sport. What's going on? Why are they cancelling each other out? Why aren't there no clean punches landing? What does he need to do to be more effective, or what does he need to do? And you can learn quite a lot, actually, from fights like that. But I think this fight is going to be a decent fight. It's a crossroads fight, isn't it? Like, if PULEV wants to go any further at 41, he needs to win. Derek, if he wants to remain an attraction in the UK, he needs to win. And that was a period, as I said before, where Derek weren't putting in a lot of road work, and he was sitting on the ropes on a few fights. I think this is going to be a better fight than the last one. More action. I don't see it being a bore fest. I don't see it being a bore fest. Looking forward to it. The fight poster says Total Carnage. Will it live up to its billing? So I'm guessing this is about a 7-figure purse for PULEV. That's what's being said was offered to Karanaki. A 7-figure purse coming off 2 stoppage losses, and Karanaki turned it down. If he's not fighting Wilder in his next fight, there's no way he earns 7 figures. There's no way. I don't believe it. Like when he turned down the AJ purse, what was that? 5, 6, 7, whatever it was. He got 300,000 for the Helenius fight and got beat up. So I don't know what they're doing over there. Like, there's a lot of critiquing about the DAZN wasting money, Eddie wasting money. And Leonard Ellerbe likes to remind us of that as often as he can, but he won't tell you the issues the PBC have went through, talking about the investment firm, Waddle and Reed. They're saying up to $1 billion spent on talent and, crucially, the platforms and stages on which the sport would be introduced or reintroduced to the young and old. Free boxing was the motto. But as we saw, the cards started slowing up, didn't they? Until they inked the deal with Fox. Has that $1 billion been recouped? How do you lose $430 million in a year? Al Heyman PBC lost over $140 million so far. Now, who knows what the accurate figures are, or how much Eddie has blown or DAZN has blown. But the facts are, PBC and DAZN are still in business. They're still in business. Both DAZN and the PBC have made mistakes. They're still young companies. Now look at this here. Ryan Garcia won't allow Golden Boy to prevent a war with Gervonta Davis. So was it Golden Boy who prevented the war with Devin Haney when he declined to take his shot at the title after winning an eliminator? And look at this. Showtime Sports President Stephen Espinoza maintained his stance throughout the week that he's hard-pressed to imagine a potential pact with DAZN, despite DAZN Executive Vice President Joe Murkowski telling Mannix that DAZN was very willing to do a joint production with Showtime. So they're willing to make these fights, these cross-promotion fights. But it's the other end. It's the Showtime end. It's the PBC end, which is unwilling. And this is glaringly evident now. I've got receipts, more receipts now. I love my receipts. You see, Stephen Espinoza is an enemy to FANPR. And we got to point out the enemies. Not with bias, with receipts. Real receipts in real time.
Seek the enemy, locate the enemy, track down the enemy, break down the enemy.
If you don't like Devin Haney's style and you think there's better fighters, then you should be pushing for them fighters to fight Devin Haney. Right? Before Devin Haney attained undisputed status, he's been looking for the big fights. I'll name all the fighters if you want, but what's the point? And they haven't took their opportunity. Yeah? Now, if they want to step up, go step up, challenge him for undisputed, and if his style is that boring and is troublesome for some of you detractors, then the fighters you're posting up to be better than him should be able to win. It's as simple as that, right? You can scream about what you find boring all day, but until somebody beats the guy, he's the man. And you don't have to accept that, but that is the state of play right now. Devin Haney is the man. Undisputed 135-pound champion. What are you going to do about it? I told you, he's going to go all Mike D and Ad Rock and come out like a beastie boy. I knew it. I said Inoue will win in 8 rounds. He done it in under 2. I always thought that Inoue underestimated Donaire a little in the first fight. And not making no excuses for Donaire. You go out there, you perform, and what you put out there is what you put out there. But this time around, he moved well. Donaire was stalking, looking for the left hook, feinting. Both men feinting, looking for opportunities. But the hand speed gap was evident when Inoue started snapping his jab. I mean, Donaire's 41 as well. Donaire tried to force the pace, and you could see the gaps where he could get exposed to Inoue's hooks. And a few of them came very close to the mark but didn't land cleanly. Donaire just couldn't get off. He just couldn't get off. He just couldn't cut the ring down on the swifter, younger, fresher Inoue. Inoue's feet were beautifully balanced. He glided round the ring effortlessly at times. Inoue looked sharp with them counters from either hand, and there was one exchange that finished with a right hook, and Donaire was down. The referee gave Donaire what looked like a very slow 8 count, but it was near the end of the round, and Inoue didn't get to follow up. It wasn't even a chin punch. I looked at the replay. It was high up on the top of the left-hand side of his head, and down he went in obvious trouble, The commentary team made a good point. Inoue hid his right hand for most of the round. and Inoue was looking for the left, and he got caught out. He didn't see the punch coming. Second round was brutal. Inoue looking for the finish. Donaire, a left hook hurt him nearby the ropes. He took another big right very bravely and tried to fight back off the ropes, but there was a huge left uppercut, which he took. Inoue went to the head, to the body with the left hand. Nice little short left hook as Inoue tried to press back and gain some initiative. And he was taking a horrible beating. And then a final 1-2, a right left, a final 1-2 put him down. And no, you can't let that one go on. It's over. Second round stoppage. I didn't think it would be this early, but I had a feeling Inoue would be dominant. That's why I didn't really play around with the prediction and tried to make it too competitive a breakdown, because that's not the fight I envisaged, not at all. So Inoue now has the WBO, WBA and IBF straps at bantamweight, and if Paul Butler fancies his chances,
We can do this.
let's hope Bob Arum uses his big machine and pushes Inoue into that fight. That's what he wants, and like, he might not want to make Undisputed for Shakur Stevenson or whatnot, but someone like Inoue needs that. He needs that. And we're grateful that ESPN are airing the fights in the UK on YouTube for free. But Bob Arum needs to go talk to Pro Bellum. It shouldn't be hard to make at all, unless Paul Butler doesn't want it. And I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't blame him at all. Paul Butler on Inoue, he said, I hope he does want to try and be undisputed. It'd be an absolute honor to step in the ring with a pound for pound great. Joe Gallagher will come up with a game plan. It will be a tough task, but it's a task I'm willing to take. At Seconds Out Live. Sources, Michael Benson. I don't hate Butler, but Inoue might hate him in the ring, man. It could be painful. But you never know. You never know. That'd be an upset of monumental proportions, though. Alright, so Fight Zone have a world champion. In WBA and IBO champion, Hannah Rankin. Who would have thought? So, they're asking what's next for Hannah. And who's next for Hannah? Now, I know some of you would probably want me to be more meticulous about the particular belts, and it's just not worth the sanity that it would take for my life to do all that. So, I know she had the middleweight title, and she lost that to Savannah Marshall. Now, Hannah's come back and won the Super Welterweight Championship. She's WBA and IBO champion. Now, someone, and I'm assuming it's a Scotsman, is saying, it's got to be Tasha Jonas. It's the biggest women's fight out there in the UK. Bring it on. All British unification, 3 belts on the line. Is it the biggest all Brit showdown in the women's sector? Or is he hyping it up? And you can understand if he is. Then again, you could get 2 pieces of turd and just sit them on the floor, and whatever one smells the worst wins. As long as it's an English turd or a Scottish turd, you know, people will be into it. Billy Nelson will be all into it, you know what I mean? And from that angle, yeah, it could be a big fight. It could be a big fight. So this kicked off a back and forth. Natasha Jonas replied, over to you at Dennis Hobson, because he controls Fight Zone, and obviously he promotes Hannah Rankin. Hannah says, to be fair, I think it's over to Ben Shalom at Boxer XX and Sky Sports Boxing. Natasha Jones says, no offense, Hannah, but your team is stalling. I think you need to speak to them. I spoke to Ben yesterday. I'm not back and forth on socials, but you know what I mean. A date and venue and purse and more has been sent. Dennis Hobson, he says nothing has been agreed, so we move on. Natasha says, you're late to the party. We've just sorted it between us. But thanks, she's coming to Liverpool on the date we provided. Just a paycheck and particulars to agree. Sorry, Natasha, someone's not being truthful with you. Natasha comes back and says that came from Hannah herself. But by all means, tag Ben at Boxer XX and let's get this sorted. Natasha, she currently holds the WBO Super Welterweight title. I saw her second round victory. She looked absolutely spectacular, actually. You know what I mean? Sounds to me like Dennis Hobson is a little out of the loop. I'd like to see the fight, though. I think Natasha should have the pedigree. I don't know. With my limited knowledge on the breakdown right now, I'd expect Natasha to win it, but I could be wrong. It's an illegal punch. It's an illegal punch, says the young casuals. Now let me explain it to you. Boxing rules cannot be applied as rigid as some of you casuals think they can. They just can't. You see, the target area is the face, yeah? The forehead, the jaw, nose, mouth, all legit. Windpipe, all legit. But the facts are, it's a fight. Punches are going to stray around the side of the head and some around the back of the head. Now, it's down to the referee's interpretation from what is a legal blow or a rabbit punch. And more importantly, a deliberate rabbit punch. Now, I think Lucas Browne was aiming his shots around that region there. But the old school in me says Junior Farr was complicit in his own downfall. Junior gave up his height, he leaned in, which allowed Lucas to loop that right hand over onto the side or onto the back of the head and put him down. And it was a similar shot that ended it. Two big overhand rights that landed not precisely on the target area. What can I say? This ain't amateur boxing. This is pro boxing. This is two different sports. Now, I know you're not going to like my explanation, but, you know, most of what I'm saying is accurate, whether you like it or not. That is why the referees are told to tell the fighters, protect yourself at all times. Meaning, I will not be able to catch every infringement or foul. Go in there and fight and try and keep it clean as possible. Referees are encouraged to stay out of the action as much as possible. I remember when Lucas fought Richard Towers and he manhandled Richard. He put that forearm in his chest when he was leaning over the ropes and pounded him to the floor. Now, these are the realities of boxing. There are a lot of coaches who will teach their fighters how to land these punches. Side of the head, back of the head, around the ear. Them kind of shots that will just scramble the equilibrium. Yeah. I'm not quite sure if in the amateurs the boxers are told to protect themselves at all times. But I can tell you in the gyms, the coaches tell them that. Amateur boxers too, protect yourself at all times. Now, you can't get away with some of the stuff you get away with in the pros. But you've got to learn how to look after yourself. All the bitching and whining, that's illegal, and that doesn't work in pro boxing. It doesn't work. Boxing is an art form, but it's a brutal art form. Dillian didn't go in there and brawl with Lucas. And he didn't run either. But he used movement. He didn't stay in range of that right hand. Lucas wants a pub brawl up close so he can throw them big heavy arm shots round the back of your head, round the side of your head. Use that big forearm and push it in your chest. And trust me, when a man of Lucas's size pushes his forearm in your chest from up close combat, you're going to know all about it. You're going to know all about it. You're going to know you're fighting the wrong fight. It always levels itself out. You don't think Lucas has been hit with illegal shots and has had to say, oh, yeah, he caught me with a good one there, didn't he? And he's just had to hold it. Come back and fight or take the L. Junior Farr's team are going to appeal the KO result due to illegal punches. They've instructed their solicitors to lodge an appeal. But to me, okay, let's say you do get it reversed. What does that mean? Are you saying that Junior performed well in there and it was just the illegal punches that led to him losing? No. He looked out of shape, he's been inactive, and the whole world saw Lucas Browne flatten him. What next? VAR? Hawkeye? Alright, so I've been looking at this pound for pound thing and I've never just jumped in. But right now I'm jumping in a little and I'm going to do my own variation of it. And I'm going to be winging it a little. So there might be some tweaks from what I say goes now. Might not fly next week or the week after. So there might be some tweaks. So the criteria is you have to be either a present 4-belt holder or a previous 4-belt holder. Now, these are the inaugural ratings first time around. So some of the criteria will not apply as we go along. You would have had to have held 4 belts and you still need to be an active fighter. You would have had to have held them 4 belts in the last 5 years. So Terence Crawford still sneaks in there by a couple of months. And if anyone is going to suggest that when August of this year comes up that Crawford should be knocked out, no. Once you're in, you cannot be displaced unless your form drops off dramatically. So for instance, if one of these guys had held a belt in the last 5 years but their current form was abysmal, of course they would go. Of course they would go. And it's a bit harsh because unless you win 4 belts, you cannot get into this exclusive pound for pound club. It's the undisputed pound for pound club, like it was in the old school. I am considering allowing fighters who hold 3 belts, unified champions, to take the 7th, 8th, and 9th and 10th slots. Considering it. So you might see Inoue in there. You might see him there. You might see Errol Spence in there. But as it stands now, we've got Terence Crawford number 1, Alexander Usyk number 2, Canelo number 3, Jermell Charlo number 4, Josh Taylor number 5, and Devin the Dream Haney number 6.